Hey, what's going on, guys? So Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake just got a fresh update. And this one is all about cleaning up some of the rough edges that players have been running into on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and Steam. The biggest fix here is the HDR issue, because a lot of players were seeing the black and white effects in cutscenes display the wrong way when HDR was turned on, and that is the kind of thing that can really throw off the mood in a game like this. When a horror game is leaning hard on atmosphere, lighting, and those dramatic visual shifts, even a single display bug can make a cutscene feel off, so getting that corrected is a pretty important win. On top of that, the update also adds save data recovery for situations where extensive protection could not be obtained, which is the kind of fix that matters a lot if you have ever had a run get messed up by progression weirdness. Nobody wants to lose progress because of something the game did behind the scenes, so this is one of those changes that sounds quiet at first, but ends up being a big deal for anyone actually playing through the game seriously. Another fix in this patch is tied to Nightmare difficulty, where the Spirit Stone Mayu's Charm 8 was not obtainable before. That might sound like a narrow issue, but for completionists, difficulty runners, and anyone trying to fully clean out the game's rewards, that is a frustrating problem to have hanging around. Now that it has been addressed, players should be able to move through that mode without wondering whether something is permanently locked out. The update also improves overall game stability and includes other minor bug fixes, which is exactly the sort of maintenance path that helps the whole experience feel smoother from start to finish. These are not flashy content additions, but honestly, patches like this often matter more than people realize, because they reduce crashes, weird behavior, and those little issues that quietly chip away at immersion. Now here's the part Nintendo Switch 2 players need to keep in mind. The same update is scheduled to arrive soon on that platform, but it is not live there yet. When it does land, the Switch 2 version is set to bring over the fix for Mayu's Charm 8 in Nightmare difficulty, plus the stability improvements and the other minor bug fixes. So even though the Switch 2 patch is a little behind the others, the important part is that the problem is being addressed across the board. That also lines up with the broader pattern we have already seen from this remake, because the developers have been steadily putting out patchwork to clean up gameplay issues, progression bugs, and presentation problems, rather than leaving players stuck with them. In other words, this is a support update that keeps tightening the experience up instead of changing what the game is at its core. And honestly, that is probably the best way to describe this one overall. It is not a giant content drop, it is not adding a new mode, and it is not rewriting the game from the ground up. What it is doing is fixing the things that can really hurt a horror title like this: visual presentation, save-related problems, item availability, and stability. If you are the kind of player who cares about atmosphere, this HDR correction is probably the most noticeable part of the patch because it helps the game look the way it was meant to look in those important story moments. If you are the kind of player who pushes difficulty settings and hunts for every unlock, then the Mayu's Charm 8 fix and the extensive protection recovery are the bigger headline items. And if you just want the game to run more cleanly without random interruptions, the stability improvements are the kind of background work that makes every hour you spend in the game feel better. So yeah. This is one of those updates that might not sound huge when you first hear about it, but once you look at the actual notes, it is clear that it solves some real annoyances and keeps the remake moving in a better direction.